What healer should we be playing in Cataclysm Classic? I'm going to be rating these based on a few different factors, including utility, tank healing, and raid healing perspectives. And we've got this lovely tier list above us, starting off with Big Daddy. If you are a Big Daddy, this is the kind of healer that you're going to want to stack in your raids, even wanting multiple of them. They're going to be fantastic raid and tank healers and bring an insane amount of utility. Then we have Pumper. These aren't quite as good as the Big Daddies, but however, they do still pump big numbers. Then we've got the mid tier, which is just like okay, they're all right. It's an okay healer at what they do. Maybe they bring some utility. Below average speaks for itself. They are below average. They're not generally that wanted, but hey, they might be fun to play and no one's at least hating on them. And then LFR dropouts are the bottom of the barrel. Nobody wants you, nobody loves you, and they never ever will. Even LFR doesn't want you. So what healer are we going to put where? Now, one thing I must say is they really are not equal in Cataclysm Classic, and there is a big difference between them. First up on my list is going to be Discipline Priest. I feel like a lot of raid teams are actually going to want a Discipline Priest in Cataclysm Classic for mainly the insane utility and kind of DPS and healing juxtaposition that they occupy. If you don't know, we now get Atonement, meaning that when we do damage with some of our spells, we're actually going to be healing our allies as well. Because of this, we can do some DPS and we can do some healing, both to the raid and the tank. We are really solid at tank healers. Remember, we've got our penance beaming out tons of healing at a specific target, as well as large heals like Greater Heal. They don't also do too badly when it comes to raid or AoE healing due to things like Prayer of Healing and their cooldowns like Divine Hymn as well. While other healers may be able to actually output more healing itself, the thing is with Discipline Priests is with all their shielding, there may not be any other healing for other healers to do because we've actually prevented half of it even needing to be done in the first place. And this is why they synergize so well with your other healers in the raid. If you think that other healers can actually overheal and things like that, whereas Disc Priests have all their absorbs, it means that they're rarely going to go wasted. Now, we're not going to be using Power Word Shield as much as we were in Wrath of the Lich King. However, it's still really good as an emergency shield or a get out of jail free card when needed. We also have the new Archangel mechanic, which is really interesting, where we can get lots of mana back or do damage as well. We also bring a huge amount of utility, things like Master Spell, dispelling in a huge wide area, and Power Word Barrier, which you can put up over your raid group, massively reducing damage taken in those big burst moments of a boss fight. As well as that, we've got Hymn of Hope, restoring mana to our raid, and also Power Infusion, increasing spell casting speed for a lucky raid member. And Pain Suppression as a big tank-focused cooldown, reducing damage taken, or somebody that's just taking high amounts of damage. Overall, we are missing out on things like Spirit of Redemption or Guardian Spirit from Holy, but with the amazing utility we have and the unique playstyle of DPS and healing, I think Discipline Priest is firmly going to go in the pumper. Next up is Holy Priest. And I think they're quite good healers in Cataclysm. I actually used to play Cataclysm back in the day and mained Holy Priest before going over to Discipline, and I honestly think they are quite all-round good healers. They're definitely not amazing, however, and they are not the Big Daddy. And they do have some really amazing and unique utilities, however. I don't think anyone's going to be stacking Holy Priests in their raid team, and definitely would prefer taking a Discipline Priest. And I do actually think that a lot of the time, it's going to be more people that are doing Shadow Priest and then are asked to heal when maybe another healer isn't available, and they're going to swap over to Holy because Disc is obviously a bit harder to play, and therefore it's less likely that someone will be willing to do that. But hey, I could be wrong. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. We have some amazing cooldowns like Guardian Spirit, literally preventing, for instance, a tank from dying. And our version of Divine Hymn is actually a lot stronger than it is in Discipline, meaning we can get some massive AoE heals out when there's burst periods of damage in the raid group. We do also have some more amazing AoE heals. Prayer of Mending in the way that it ping-pongs around the raid is really good, meaning it's super efficient. And also our Prayer of Healing and Circle of Healing as well. Another awesome kind of utility we have is the Light Well, where people can actually click on it, getting heals when they need, freeing up time for the healer as well. Not to forget, we also have our chakras, which can do a variety of different things, adding massive solo heals for the tank or AoE heals where needed for the raid group as well, meaning they are a bit of a jack of all trades in my opinion. Overall, as you can see here, we don't really have many cooldowns like Discipline Priests do, meaning we do lose a lot of that. However, our Divine Hymn is better, like I said. We are just still losing that edge on the competition. I do think some skilled holy priests will be able to do a fair amount of healing, so rather than putting them in LFR dropout, I'm going to put them at below average. There may be some specific fights where holy priests actually do outperform discipline, but most of the time it's just not going to be what the raid is going to need. When something like a Restoration Shaman, Holy Paladin, or Restoration Druid is adding heals as well, Discipline is the only one that's really bringing a really unique twist on things with their shields, etc. And it just doesn't make sense to go Holy over that instead. Next up is Restoration Druid, and I think these ones bring a lot of unique toolkits as well, especially in the form of utility. And considering that you can go off-spec into balance, wearing pretty much the same gear, this does make things easier for us, unlike something like Holy Paladin and Retribution Paladin. A lot of our spells are going to be instant cast, like our Rejuvenation, our Life Bloom, and our Swift Mend, meaning we can get out really quick and snappy heals when needed. As you can see here, we also have our Efflorescence, meaning we do some really good AoE healing when people are stacked up automatically, along with our Wild Growth, healing multiple people. Regarding our cooldowns, we do have Tranquility, which I don't think is as good as some of the other healers' AoE cooldowns, but we do, however, have the Tree of Life, enhancing all of our other spells, meaning we can do really focused and targeted enhanced healing when needed on specific people or groups of people as well. But it's actually targeted healing that we can do with that, because the spells are specifically enhanced. Even if there's no Feral Druid in the raid, we can still put Fairy Fire on our target, which is a really useful piece of toolkit we have, meaning that we can reduce the armor of our target by 4% at all times. Remove Corruption is a fantastic debuff remover, removing magic, curse, and poison effects, which is a lot more than some other classes, and we do of course have Mark of the Wild, but when you think that priests also have Fortitude, it doesn't really stack out that well above them. We do have some really great utilities like Innovate, giving a healer free mana, and of course we have a Battle Res, which a lot of other healers do not have, meaning we can actually resurrect people in battle. I think this is one of the core things that makes Restoration Druids so coveted. However, are they the best? I'm not sure if they are the Big Daddy. We can, however, switch into bear form, becoming a different kind of Big Daddy when needed to take down our damage incoming. And speaking of shapeshifting, we also have things like Dash, increasing our movement speed, and we can get out of stuff really, really quickly. And also things like Cower, where we can reduce our threat taken, and things like that. There is just such an amazing amount of utility here for Resto Druids that I really don't think that you should be skipping over them. With that being said, their healing just isn't as good as other classes, meaning I definitely can't put them too high on the list. Although they're definitely not bad, and I wouldn't say they're below average, I really don't think they quite managed to get up into the pumper just because of how good Discipline Priests are with all of their utility and their unique playstyle. I think they're a pretty good all-roundabout class and do add a fair amount of utility, and therefore I'm going to put them in mid-tier. Now looking at Restoration Shaman, again, I do think they're good healers, but I don't think they're quite as high as some others. Again, a Resto and Elemental Shaman can use the same gear, the same as Resto Druid and Balanced Druid, meaning that they are quite capable of flexing from DPS to healer as well when needed, which I don't think is to be underestimated. I think one thing that we shouldn't be underestimating is definitely how much utility they bring when you think about the insane amount of totems we have at our disposal as a shaman. Especially totems like Spirit Link, which is actually going to equal out all of the health across the raid, equaling out damage incoming. They do some really good healing when people are packed together, namely because of the Healing Rain spell, as you can see here, doing great AoE healing, and also Chain Heal, healing multiple people quite effectively. Much more so than the Druid's Effervescence, or even a Holy Priest's Holy Word Sanctuary. I really do think Healing Rain is one of the best at doing what it does here. And we can definitely just stand there pumping out chain healing, doing massive AoE, and it's going to be quite easy. A lot of the healers now in Cataclysm have gotten a lot more fluid, I would say, than they were in Wrath, where we're just spamming spells. And I think Resto Shaman is definitely the one in raid healing where we can definitely still be getting out just chain heal, chain heal, chain heal. And then we do have some good tank healing with things like Riptide and emergency healing with Healing Surge as needed. And we will be doing a little bit of DPS with Flame Shock and Lightning Bolt in certain situations as well. It's not going to be a lot that we're really contributing, but there is actually a talent where Lightning Bolt is going to give us mana back, and therefore we can actually weave some of these in along with our Flame Shock. And, you know, damage is damage at the end of the day. Speaking on tank healing again, we can of course put Earth Shield on them. This can be really helpful, especially if you've got a Disc Priest in the raid as well, who's also putting shields on them. And we've got some really great utilities. One, of course, to mention is Heroism and Bloodlust. That is it is the best buff in the game and cooldown, in my opinion. And of course, if there isn't any shamans that are in the raid, you are going to be the top dog in that respect. We can also go into Ghost Wolf, meaning that we can get around quite quick, and this can be used in combat. Wind Shear for an interrupt. Spirit Walker's Grace, again for more mobility, meaning we can cast on the move. We can purge one magic effect from the enemies, which is alright, not as good as some other classes, in my opinion. And we can remove curses from our friendly targets as well as incapacitating our targets with Hex. So they do definitely fill an alright amount of utility, but I just feel like they're kind of a bit mid, if I'm honest. There's nothing really here apart from Bloodlust, which any shaman will bring, that I feel is just like giving us crazy amounts of oomph in their healing arsenal. Because of that, I'm just going to put them straight back in mid with Restoration Druid. Boo-hoo for you. And lastly on the list is going to be Holy Paladin. Is it going to be an LFR dropout, or is it the big daddy we've all been waiting for? You may remember that Holy Paladins were the dominant healer in Wrath of the Lich King, and they may just well be retaining that title throughout Cataclysm Classic as well. Many 25-player teams are actually going to be opting to take not one, but two Holy Paladins in their raid group as healers if they can. Obviously, a lot of the fights are going to be two-tank fights, and because of our Beacon of Light, where healing is going to be duplicated on the beacon, we can actually have this up on both tanks, meaning both tanks are going to be covered if you take two Holy Paladins completely, which is insane. They also now have an interrupt as well, just like some other healers with their rebuke, making them even more formidable, filling out the utility that they were missing in Wattalk. We also have here Holy Radiance, a massive, really powerful AoE raid spell that is literally not even on a cooldown, as well as the Light of Dawn, where we can stand in melee doing damage with our DPS spells, and then healing in a cone in front of us. So again, when people are really grouped up, this is going to be fantastic. Again, paired with Holy Radiance and the AoE healing that will do, I really do feel like we're an unstoppable force. We're also pretty unstoppable when it comes to our cooldowns and utilities. We have Avenging Wrath on a 2-minute cooldown, increasing all damage and healing done. Aura Mastery, Lay on Hands, of course, which is an incredible heal, and Guardian of Ancient Kings, which, while active, our next direct heals will cause the Guardian to heal the same target for the amount healed by your heal and friendly targets within 10 yards of the target for 10% of the amount healed, which is just incredible. We are fantastic tank healers. We are insane raid healers as well with all of these cooldowns and buffs that we're now getting. Not to mention, we have our auras, of course, further increasing our utility, as well as Blessing of Might and Blessing of Kings. Especially if you're taking two Paladins, we can have both of these buffs up at all times as well. Not to forget, we've also got our hand spells, Hand of Sacrifice, Hand of Salvation, Hand of Freedom, and of course the coveted Hand of Protection, making a party or raid member immune to all physical attacks. The spec has definitely gotten a lot more dynamic and interesting in Cata than it was in Rev. We'll not be out there spamming Holy Light endlessly forever, but I really do think if you are skilled at playing Holy Paladin now, you are going to be topping the charts like no other. They are the big daddy. There is just no question about it. They are the absolute kings of healers in Cataclysm Classic. So we've got Holy Paladin as the big daddy, Disc Priest as a pumper. My opinion would be to take 2 Holy Paladins and a Disc Priest if you can. That would be perfect. You can also take Restoration Druids or Restoration Shamans. Ideally, in my opinion, we would go with a Restoration Druid, maybe even putting Resto Shaman down to below average, but I think due to their chain heal and healing rain spells, they're still going to be in mid-tier. Holy Priests, however, we don't really want them, but they're all right. There really isn't any healers that are just not viable at all and would be LFR dropouts in my opinion. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Which healer are you going to be playing in Cata Classic? And do you agree with the analysis that I've done here? I will also be doing ranged and melee DPS tier lists. So make sure to subscribe so you don't check them out, so you don't miss those ones as well. And I also will be doing all PvE class guides when Cataclysm drops. All tank guides, all DPS guides, melee and ranged, and also all healing guides. There will be a playlist on my channel with every single one there for you once the expansion releases.